Right, folks, this is a new podcast from the two mites, and I'm going to give you old energy boy, MG, to introduce it.
Yeah, we've edited out all the nonsense from Mike, Porky, Parry, so it might be a bit shorter than usual.
Ha, 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 ha. The ragdoll, the Maine Coons, the Siamese, the Burmese, the Persian, the Burman, the Oriental Shorthair, the Bengal, the exotic Shorthair.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And then a guide to...
Well, have you just discovered that there's a load of different kinds of cats?
Look at the light!
This is Talk Sport Extra time. We are the two mics, and it is that time of the morning to say a very good morning to Mr. Mike and Porky Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Yes, morning, Mike. Good to be back in the studio after our adventures on the road.
Indeed.
More of that a bit later on.
Yes.
Louis Van Gaal.
There's been a lot of people waiting for you to say just those three words.
Well, I mean, he's got a problem now, hasn't he? Because he's got nothing left for this season to achieve anything. He can't achieve anything
Well,
now.
all he can achieve is the Arsenal trophy, isn't it? Coming in the top four, coming fourth, maybe third, but probably that's going to be difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, but is that an achievement? I thought that was not an achievement after the David Moyes season. I thought that was an absolute requirement. No, I don't think that'll be seen as an achievement.
No.
If he gets there, it's going to be said, well, we breathe a sigh of relief. At least we got there. But I wouldn't say that was an achievement.
Well, he himself set the bar, as I said earlier, when he said we should finish in the top three. He didn't say the top four. He said the top three. I don't see them finishing the top three.
Yeah.
So by his own admission, he's already failed.
That's right. He does start talking gobbledygook now after these games because, A, he hasn't got a huge command of English to express himself properly, and B, you could see on his face tonight. Now, in the past, I've described people as pan-faced individuals.
Yes.
Because they look
you described me as that, actually.
I have, actually, yeah. They look as though they've been literally smacked in the face with a frying pan.
I'm assuming, in my case, not really an insult, though, because I don't look as though I've been smacked in the face by a frying pan.
No, you've got far too much blubber in your face, to be honest. But he's got he's got what I would say is a concave face.
Yes.
You know, there are two types.
He has, actually, yeah.
Two types of mirrors, concave and convex.
That's right, yeah.
And this is a concave face.
Yes, you're right.
Cave meaning it goes in.
Yes, he's got one of those faces that looks a bit like a question mark to me.
That's right, yeah. It's a bit of sort of question mark face, I agree. It's almost a bit like that very, very famous painting, The Scream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Constant look of... Oh.
Maybe that'll be the way it looks at the end of the season.
Yeah, constant look of shock in his eyes. But what I'm saying is...
Do you know who painted that, by the way?
Sorry?
Do you know who painted that?
It got stolen recently.
It got stolen not that long ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Edvard, first name?
Edvard Simmons.
Monk.
Edvard Monk.
Who's Edvard Simmons?
I don't know. Edvard Monk.
Yeah.
OK, that's fair enough. I don't know what that's got to do with the price of fish, but anyway, there we are.
Still, we tell people who painted it.
Now, what I was going to say is the concave face tonight looked in total shock to me, particularly when he started uttering this sort of gibberish. A match should be decided by goals. We don't lose from the opposition tonight. We lose from ourselves.
Yeah.
And the difference between two teams not so high. But my best player, also the player makes the mistake that loses the game. So it's all a bit of gobbledygook, really, you know.
Well, it is really, and also because before the game he made this rather elaborate explanation of how it's 11 players against 11 players.
That's
Actually, turned out it wasn't 11 players against 11 players, 11 players against 10 players. But hang on, there's been a wicket in the cricket, because there are some teams left in the Cricket World Cup, despite England's exit. What do you make of that? England going out of the World Cup. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Can anybody have any interest left in the cricket now? I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with cricket. Obviously, we're a sports station, we cover it, but the sheer disappointment and humiliation of seeing the England cricket team being booted out.
Yeah.
They've achieved exactly what the England Football World Cup team achieved.
Not getting out of the group.
Not just not getting out of the group, but actually being told you're not getting out of the group with one game to spare.
Yeah.
Which means the opposition have just trounced them all the way through in the same way we were trounced in Brazil.
And it's actually in a way worse, isn't it? In a way it's worse, though,
shocking.
because what we're now being told, basically, I know people will argue about, whether it's one-day cricket or test cricket or whatever, where England are now no longer one of the top 8 teams in the world.
No, you can't, how can you not be one of the top 8 cricket teams in the world? There's only about 11 countries in the world play cricket.
Well, there's a bit more than that, because they managed to make up a World Cup, don't they?
Wouldn't you think people of Afghanistan had things better to do than stop practising cricket?
Well, maybe if they played more cricket, life would be better for them.
Well, maybe, but it's a very hilly country, Afghanistan. It's very hard to find a flat pitch to play cricket on.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, they still do it. Young Toby tonight, who's reading the headlines, by the way, he picked up on that story that Rodney Marsh has had this conversation with Roy Hodgson.
Yeah.
who says Harry Kane will be in my next lineup.
Yeah.
It's a terrific story. He first told us that 2 weeks ago,
Yeah, I know.
And Toby heard it tonight and put it in the news, in the sports bulletin. That's where it should be. That's a terrific story.
I was reminded, actually, of Roy Hodgson just the other day, yesterday I think it was, because after this Liverpool situation where they can't play the replay of their FA Cup.
For a month?
Now, for a month. Partly because of the international break. I mean, it's bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I thought that the next round of the FA Cup was sooner than a month away anyway. So it looks like they're going to have to play their replay after the first ties for the other semi-finals play.
It looks like it, yeah.
It's amazing.
Ridiculous. Anyway, so what's the future for Manchester United and Louis van Gaal?
Well, you can't go around sacking your manager every season, continental style, just because they don't win anything. You just can't, because if you did, the destabilisation of the club would be complete, wouldn't it? You know, you become a cowboy club if you go 3 seasons with 3 separate managers. They can't possibly do that. They're going to have to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, well, there was so much work to be done that it couldn't be done in 1 season.
Yeah.
They're going to have to, because...
But they're going to have to then spend another 100 million or so, or maybe
definitely.
another 200 million, because, they clearly haven't got the right team. They've clearly got a lot of players in there that shouldn't be there. Do you think, knowing him as you do, that David Moyes is sitting somewhere in the Basque country with a wry smile on his face?
No, I don't. I think David Moyes is a very pragmatic man. I think he realises the challenge he took on was so huge, it went beyond him. And the challenge hasn't got that much easier for Louis van Gaal, even though he had an awful lot more money to spend. And I think David Moyes' reaction will honestly be, thank God I got out when I did.
Actually, you might be right.
Because if he'd have gone through a second season like this, it could well have destroyed his ability and his reputation as a football manager forever.
Yeah.
Whereas he got out with dignity at the end of the first season. What has happened now is with LVG. I won't keep saying Louis van Gaal.
No, of course.
Because it start annoying people.
I'm not sure it does.
LV, certainly the people of Birmingham seem to like it as a...
They did.
As a trade.
They liked an awful lot of it, to be honest.
They did. The thing with the season of LVG is it does justify to an extent David Moyes' inability to make it work.
Yeah.
Because, and this is what we said to Piers Morgan when he came on the other night, be careful what you wish for when you want a new manager and a whole new regime, because the old regime might collapse.
Yeah.
It might be like the Roman Empire. What replaces it when it goes? It's very difficult to tell. In the case of the Roman Empire, it was replaced by the Dark Ages, 400 years of history in this country, of which we know absolutely nothing, because the country got overgrown with a load of forest, people wandering round eating nuts and acorns and all this kind of stuff.
Got the Dark Ages.
The Dark Ages, but everybody lost the ability to read and write, and therefore there was no chronicle of what happened in those 400 years.
Really?
It is an absolute mystery as to what happened.
So what are you saying, if we did a quiz on it, I wouldn't be able to find any questions to ask you?
Well, very few indeed, because it was all supposition and people sort of, tried to predict what was going to happen, but the country just got overgrown with forest and everybody lived in forest and never saw each other. So we don't know what happened.
No, how bizarre. We'll have to talk about the quiz this week, because I don't know what the subject's going to be yet, so we'll have a think about that.
Yes.
And we will be, of course, taking your tweets at the 2 Mikes, at Mike Parry 8, at IROMG. We've got plenty of tales from Birmingham to tell you about, including an encounter on a train, which Mr. Parry's going to be elaborating on a little bit later on. We are the 2 Mikes. This is TalkSport. This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the 2 Mikes. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course. We've got lots of tales to tell you about Birmingham. Mr. Parry, you'll recognise that song, of course, by a band called Blondie.
That was Blondie.
Now, I'm hearing stories, I heard them third hand, so I have to hear them from the horse's mouth, that you had some kind of encounter.
Well, I'll tell you about that in a
back.
second, but as we were in Birmingham, of course, that reminded me of the situation that happened in Birmingham, at Villa, the game, West Brom and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm getting barracked now for saying I think the game should be replayed. But if you're a West Brom player...
Mostly from Aston Villa fans, right?
Mostly from Aston Villa fans, of course. But if you're a West Brom player and you were aware of civil disturbance taking place in the ground, which it was, then you are going to be... the approach to the game is going to be very different to an approach to a game where the fans are not about to invade the pitch.
Right.
If you know the fans are about to invade the pitch, you've got half an eye on the tunnel. You want to stay over that side of the pitch.
Yeah,
and
but isn't it something?
bound...
But is this not something that happens kind of literally in the moment? I mean, you don't know the pitch has been invaded until it's actually invaded.
You could tell because the fans had started sitting on the wall. They started putting their legs over the advertising hoardings.
Yeah.
You could see that something's going to happen.
Right.
Now, I've pursued that argument. Somebody said, well, it happened 70 seconds from the end of time.
Yeah.
Well, can I just point out, please? It may be true, but can I just point out that Derby lost their 2-goal advantage in their game over the weekend by conceding goals in the 93rd and the 96th minute?
Right.
So that's another 6 minutes to go on. So how do you know there wasn't another 6 minutes to play?
Manchester United won the Champions League in a similar fashion.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is I believe the game should be replayed because the circumstances in which the West Brom players, the visiting team, had to play in the dying seconds of the game were unsuitable for a football match.
I mean, would there not? Is there likely to be some kind of sanction?
Take them off.
But is there likely to be some kind of sanction against Aston Villa for not controlling the crowd? There usually is, isn't there?
Yeah, there should be. And the replay, by the way, should take place behind closed doors because you can't afford to have a situation in which the Villa fans feel bitter and twisted because the game's being replayed and you might get a repeat of it all over again, you know.
But
anyway.
Unfortunately, it's one of those things now because of the way that grounds are constructed and the way that, the fans are not completely penned in because we know what happened when that was the case, that, there's always a risk of it happening, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. But, I mean, that's down to the club to persuade their fans to behave in a civilised fashion. Otherwise, they get into problems. Yeah. Anyway, talking about the city of Birmingham, coming home on Saturday morning. Now, I had one of these great male dilemmas, okay? Yeah. Terrible dilemma for me. I get on the train, sitting in first class, and I'm sitting towards the end of a first-class coach. Yes. Yeah. And, of course, there's a glass door. Which goes through to the corridor where the sort of cattle class starts, if you see what I mean.
On this occasion, I presume you actually paid for a first-class ticket.
Of course I did.
You didn't do that thing that you normally drag me into a first-class carriage on the way to a football match.
But they're usually on little commuter trains around London.
That. But it's still first-class and second-class,
Well, it's not. I think you're allowed to travel in first-class at weekends or something like that. But anyway, the point is, they check your tickets on this train. You can't get away with getting a second-class ticket. So I was in first class because it's comfortable and I had work to do and it makes life easier.
Yes.
Now, looking through the glass door, I see a lady arrive.
Is this at the same station or did she get on somewhere else?
No, she got on at Birmingham New Street.
OK.
The train was packed in cattle class, right? And so the further you got down the train, the more sort of packed it looked. And then there's 4 carriages full of first-class seats.
Right.
And they're quite packed in the first 2, but I go right to the end. I always walk the extra mile to get a decent seat.
Of course. It's quite surprising, really, the train was packed out, though, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I think it was only packed out for those who were going to Coventry, you see what I mean?
Right.
Like Birmingham International, Coventry, London, right? Or Watford or something like that.
Yeah.
And anyway, this lady comes in, and she had her back to me, but she looked quite attractive.
Right.
And then she turned round, and I found she was very, very attractive, a very attractive blonde lady. Youngish, I would say late 20s.
Okay.
About, 29, 30, something like that. High black leather boots, tight jeans, and a décolletage of absolute great attraction.
Yes.
And
I see what you're saying.
And a very low-cut top.
Yeah.
And as she bent down to adjust her case, I mean, it was a startling view.
Was it?
Startling view. And I thought, golly, this is... So anyway... Train gets going.
And well, you said you had a table. Was there like
I was sitting at a table. I had a four-seated table. I had a four-seated table. Right. So I was sitting in the aisle seat. Yeah. And
I'm surprised. Normally, you would want to sit facing away from the sort of hoi polloi, wouldn't you?
No.
You wouldn't want to be looking into their carriage.
Well, no, but there were no more hoi polloi beyond me. This was the last of the first class carriages. She was merely sitting in the corridor at the end of the first class carriage. You see, she decided that she didn't want to be with the hoi polloi.
Oh, she'd come into the first class.
Come into first class, but she couldn't sit in the first class seat. She didn't have a ticket.
Right.
She didn't have a first class ticket.
I see.
So anyway, I'm looking at her diagonally through the window, and I'm thinking, should I be a gentleman here? So
an offer to give her an upgrade.
Well, offered to give her a seat in first class.
Oh, OK.
So anyway, what happens is that a guard comes through, and I said, "Oh, hello," and he checked my ticket. I said, "Look," I said, "if I would invite somebody in here," I said, "how much should it cost?" And he said, £87.
Blimey.
And I thought. No, I thought on a Saturday, I thought you could upgrade for £10.
Like a tenner,
or something like that.
I'm sure that's true.
Anyway.
Maybe it's only on certain trains.
He said something about, the tickets regulations or something like that. So I'm thinking about £87. So that was my first thought. Now, I didn't mind £87. That was all right to enjoy the company of a vivacious young lady.
Yeah.
But my biggest worry is that because I'm a man of a certain age, I might be accused of being a dirty, lecherous old git.
There's always that possibility.
Who was trying to entice a young lady into my carriage, onto my table.
Into your lair.
To ply her with wine, because I had a bottle of Pinot on the table.
Did you?
I was going to offer a glass of wine.
That's nice.
Absolutely. And I thought about, whether this would be misinterpreted. I thought about...
There is always that possibility.
I thought about the fear of rejection.
Yes.
I thought about the fear of...
How much time has passed by this stage? Have you got up to Coventry yet?
Yeah, we've got to Coventry, yeah.
Oh, so she's all the way to London then?
Oh, absolutely. This is the thing. This is the thing, you see. I thought I'd better wait till we get to Coventry. Right. I might make a complete fool of myself. She might be getting off.
Yeah, exactly,
yeah. So anyway, I then think to myself... What about the mockery value of other people in the carriage? You see me go out trying to pick up, to all intents and purposes, trying to pick up this young lady.
Well, to help her out.
And I wasn't trying to pick her up, obviously, you know.
So she was surrounded by other people then?
No. There were people behind me in the carriage.
Oh, okay.
Now, they just seen me go to the door. And because of the glass door, they just seen me, engaging in conversation with her.
Well, you could have pretended that you knew her or something, couldn't you?
Well, I couldn't really. I didn't know, did I? But anyway. So anyway, it is a terrible dilemma.
It is.
So I had a few more glasses of Pinot to see whether it would turn my brain around in one direction or the other.
Or give you a bit of Dutch courage, perhaps.
Well, I didn't need Dutch courage. I just thought, how is this going to be interpreted?
Yeah.
How will it? Now, by this stage...
So what were you beginning to conclude? Which way were you leaning?
I was leaning towards the fact that it's probably better left alone.
Right.
But at this stage, she suddenly produced a nail kit.
Oh, yeah.
And started replacing her false fingernails.
Oh, yeah. Classy girl.
Sorry?
Classy girl.
Well, I've never seen this before, and no, it didn't bother me. I thought she's still very attractive, and I thought, I don't know what to do here. Then I thought, and perhaps this is a bit big-headed, I thought, now the long-term thing here, of course, is that if I do invite this lady into my carriage and she sits opposite me, she might, as has happened many times before... become besotted by me, and
or by the Pinot at the very least.
Besotted by me, and
Well, then you won't be able to get rid of her.
I won't be able to get rid of her, and
or she could be one of those fatal attraction types.
Well, you never know.
Outside your door with a knife.
You never know.
She
could have been a bunny boiler or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you never know. So I thought, look, the best thing to do is to do nothing. You could land yourself with all sorts of problems. You could put yourself in a difficult position. You could be misinterpreting what you're doing. I mean, I even thought, believe it or not...
And you're not going to tell me that after all this you didn't do anything, are you?
I didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything?
No, I didn't do anything.
Well, it's meant to be some kind of encounter.
No. Well, it wasn't an
encounter. Except there was no encounter.
No, it was a mental encounter.
There was no encounter.
No, it was. Because
an encounter involves meeting somebody.
Because I also thought, I know this is mad, but I have a reputation to protect, particularly after we'd done such a successful show in Birmingham.
Well, you might have thought she might have even recognised you, actually.
Well, no, I didn't think that. But what I thought, if the guard comes through again and sees the lady who was in the corridor sitting at my table, he might well ring up the British Transport Police and say, I think this lady has been, kidnapped or something.
Right.
Not kidnapped, but sort of enticed.
Well, that would have been none of his business,
Well, it might have been. It might have been. He might have thought she was flashing her eyes at me like she wanted help or something like that.
Wouldn't he just give you a bill for 87 quid, though?
Well, I wouldn't mind you paying that. I mean, that would have been okay, It's,
I'm staggered by your lack of sort of initiative here.
Really?
I would have thought you would
what would you have done?
Well, I think if I'd drunk as much wine as you had by the stage that I'd got to...
No, I hadn't drunk a lot of wine.
If I was... Well, no. But
2 or 3 glasses.
Well, yeah, I know, but still... I would have said to myself, well, sometimes if I was of that mind, which of course, as you know, I'm not, I wouldn't have tried
which
to pick
of course
up...
you are,
Well, no, I would have said some years ago, maybe, but not now.
Right.
I would have probably gone up to her and asked her if she'd like to have a drink.
Really?
Yeah, and then I would have joined her instead of bringing her to me. How about that?
What, you just stood in the corridor?
Yeah.
Because you had to stand because she was sitting on her case.
Yeah, why not?
Well, that's ridiculous.
And then after a while, you could say, well, why don't you come and sit down here? It's more comfortable.
Utterly ridiculous,
That's
honestly.
what I would have done. But what I wouldn't have done was nothing.
Yeah, well, the thing
With all
is...
these thoughts racing through your head.
Yes, thoughts racing through my head. Also, I needed to get home and assess, things from the night before and all that kind of stuff. I thought, I know what could happen.
It can complicate your life as well.
It can complicate your life. I thought, right, well, I know what's going to happen. We're going to get to Euston Station, and we arrived in Euston Station at about midday, 12:10, and I thought, I'll then invite her for lunch, because obviously I will. We'll then go off to somewhere like Joe Allen in Covent Garden or something like this.
You might never get home.
I'm lugging this case around. She's got a suitcase. It's all going to get very, very messy and complicated.
She might have been meeting somebody at
She might have been meeting somebody at Euston who was,
you wouldn't appreciate her falling off a train drunk with you.
Exactly. Till dark. Yeah, because I'd have gone and got another bottle of wine. I'd have had to if it was for 2 of us, know. And it all... to me, to be a bit too risky to my reputation to get involved in this.
Well, on balance, perhaps you did the right thing.
But it was a terrible dilemma. Terrible dilemma, but not so much of a brief encounter, really. I wonder if you were that lady on the train, or you know who she might have been. Yeah.
You might have told that story.
She wasn't a natural blonde, because I could see that dark roots growing in the... what are you laughing at? In the parting in her hair, on her head.
I don't believe you just said that.
Yeah. Why?
But what relevance is that?
Well, the relevance is that other people might know her as a brunette. when I only saw her as a blonde.
Well.
But she was a natural brunette, in my view.
Excellent. Okay, well, if you were that natural brunette...
Trained observer.
Blonde, do give us a call. 08717 223344. We are the Two Mikes. Loads more coming up. And let me read you a couple of tweets that have come in. Okay. Great one here from Mike, who says, I can't believe that I just sat in my milk flow and waited till the end of the train story to find out that nothing happened.
Well, that's right. That's right. But that was showing my restraint. It was showing my maturity. It was showing my respect for women. That's what I wanted them all to know about, because they all thought that I would have got plastered on Pinot Grigio and then waded in and embarrassed myself with a young lady. But of course I didn't.
I think people will be happy to hear that you didn't. Zobon says this. Yeah. The bottom line here is that Mike Parry was scared and he's not smooth like you, Mr. Graham, when it comes to the ladies. Shame on you, Porky. And here's one from Michael who says that, to think Porky gives life lessons when he hasn't got the bottle to chat up a blonde. And Ian says, only Porky would try and pull at New Street Station. Great start to the week.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, that's all very well being criticised there. Had I, in fact, made a move on this young lady and, worried her or something like that, then I'd be getting all sorts of texts and emails from the other side of the fence, which would say, you dirty old man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't win. Unfortunately, you can't win in that kind of situation. Anyway, Birmingham was a great success.
It was a great
fantastic show.
It was.
The only thing I suppose we should say, by way of an apology to anyone who was there, is that we were under the impression that at the end of the show there would be a bar. Which would be open. And as I left the stage, you were kind of held back by many people who wanted their pictures taken.
I was getting mobbed.
And loads of people hopefully did get their pictures with you. And I think my daughter came and kind of dragged you away.
Well, she did, because again, Emma was under the impression.
A bit like a pitch invasion.
Yeah, it was like a pitch invasion. They all piled up onto the stage. And I was very happy to do as much as they wanted. And Emma came along and said, look, we've got to go. And I thought, like you, that we were then going to repair to the
theatre bar, which was just outside.
Just outside, right. and only to be told, no, it's not open tonight, which is a bit of a nuisance, really, because that's where we're going to hear. So I went to the stage door, didn't we? And there were a few people there, but, they sort of said, we thought we might see you inside. I said, I'm sorry, the bar wasn't open and all that. And we did what we
were very much given. I mean, the thing was, we were told by the people who were at the theatre, when I went up there a few weeks ago, I said, normally speaking, we like to sort of take some pictures with people and all of that, and sometimes have a drink. And she said, well, definitely the best place to do that is out in the foyer bar. So she gave me the very clear impression the foyer bar would be open when the show finished.
It was when I went there to suss the place out before we actually did the concert. Anyway, there we are. Following morning at breakfast in the Cockthorne Hotel, a gentleman of a certain age came over to me, and I thought, I wonder what he wants. And he addressed me by my name, and he said, I was at the show last night. I drove here from Cheltenham. I'm driving back today. Big fan of yours. And it was wonderful and very, very kind of him. Very nice indeed. And we encountered an awful lot of that. People coming from all over the country to Birmingham. Right. But anyway, look, we're looking now at other venues where we might be going around the country. We got a great response in Birmingham. Thank you ever so much indeed. We sold out a month before the event. We're going to try and maybe hire a bigger hall for the next one, wherever that might be, because I'm sure we have the capacity to accommodate more people. Yeah. And I personally, I can't speak for old MG here, overwhelmed with the response, overwhelmed with the enthusiasm and the kindness and the appreciation that we got from those people.
And some of the stuff that people were sending out on Twitter was some of the funniest stuff was people actually sitting in our chairs and taking pictures of themselves in the chairs.
I didn't see that.
I'll find a couple of those and show them to you.
You made some reference to me wearing purple trousers, which was complete nonsense.
You were wearing purple trousers.
I wasn't wearing purple trousers. They're black trousers.
The funny thing was...
And a purple light fell across them at one stage.
Not at all, no, because when the light fell on your trousers, which I hadn't really noticed until I was sitting opposite you, I wondered if it was the light that was playing a trick on my eyes, because I thought, is there a purple light? But actually your shoes were completely black and the trousers were a different colour.
No, they weren't, because I had a black suit on and I don't know how that happened, but anyway, it was a trick of the light.
Some people thought the purple was a very nice colour to wear, actually.
No, I wasn't wearing purple. I tell you what, I think the people who run Birmingham, the city, have got a big problem. I mean, I've never seen such incredible...
A lot of roadworks.
Which have disrupted a city of that size, quite unbelievably. And when you come on a New Street station, and remember, some people arrive at New Street Station, it's the first ever image of Birmingham, the
it's
great
terrible,
second
isn't
city.
It, when you come into that kind of...
Appalling.
What you might very loosely call a rotunda, where all the shops are. It looks really cheap, doesn't it?
Well, not only that, but once you get outside, there's a one-way system where you're supposed to get a taxi, except the taxis have to share that one lane, that's all that's left, with ordinary motorists and traffic.
Who are dropping people off.
You don't know what's a taxi, what's not a taxi.
Well, you know what, the first time I went to Birmingham, which was a few years ago, I came out of one particular exit of New Street Station, and there was nothing there at all. No. I didn't even know where I was.
No.
There was no taxis, there was no buses, there was no... You were just kind of out on the street.
You've got to come out the right side of Euston Station. But a bit of a mess. But I do like Birmingham. It's a great city. I worked there on the Birmingham Evening Mail, and I impressed a lot of the audience the other night by telling the stories of how I so successfully rose up the food chain at the Birmingham Mail.
And how you used to get the papers early so you could go and nick all the decent deals out of the classified
adverts. Yeah. All of that sort of stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And it was great to see everybody. So, we'll see you back on the road again sometime soon.
Yes, and it will all be announced, of course, if you follow at the two mics.
All the arrangements under the way.
There's a very good tweet from somebody who says, he's found your mystery girl, #Dark Roots. It's a picture of Madonna.
Madonna, that's right, yeah. Well, she's still pretty active, isn't she? Now, listen, mate, I need to talk to you about cats, because it's getting on my nerves. Right, I opened, a periodical over the weekend. There's a 4-page feature on cats.
Yeah.
It says, why cats are... what's this say?
Evil.
Well,
why cats are evil.
Why cats are little bundles of joy.
Yes.
Look at that. Why cats are little bundles? It's got little kittens, right? Now, kittens...
Kittens are lovely, aren't they?
Kittens are all right. Cats themselves are not. And then this 4-page guide, it's called the Top Cat Guide. Fancy getting a cat? Try adopting first.
Really?
Try adopting.
Adopting a cat?
Yeah. If you think your happy home would be a good place for a cat, the noble thing to consider is to adopt. Go to an animal rescue centre and adopt one. And then it's got things like indoor cats, outdoor cats.
I had an indoor cat in New York.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's cool to have a cat. Breed or colour.
Did you just glossed over that?
No, I haven't. No,
Don't you want to hear my cat story?
Well, yes, I do, yeah. But, I mean, I hope it's interesting.
Well, it's not as interesting as your story where nothing happened with the blonde.
Right,
okay. But,
okay.
But we'll do it later. No, you carry on.
No, I want to hear about the cat.
We'll do it later.
No.
Well, funny enough, my ex-wife, before we were married, adopted a cat from the New York animal rescue place up in Harlem.
Really?
And it was an indoor cat.
Good
and
God.
we ended up bringing it back to Britain with us.
Yeah.
And had to
you brought the cat back?
Well, why not? Maybe just
what about all the inoculation and all that?
Well, the cat had to go into quarantine for 6
That's what
months.
I'm saying.
We used to go and visit the cat in Dover because it was being held in this cattery, right?
What a waste of time. You're living up in London.
Well, no,
you had to keep going down to Dover to see some manky cat.
Despite manky cat, no, it was my pet cat.
You picked up from some homeless cat home in New York.
It was my pet, and it was her pet, and we didn't want to abandon it in New York, did we? Much as you would accuse me of doing that sort of thing. But, it never really survived the quarantine because by the time we got it back into the flat we were living in London, or the little house we were living in London, it was just never the same.
No.
But it never went outside, this cat. Had never been outside.
It's cruel, that, isn't it?
No, it was a flat cat.
It says here indoor cat, outdoor cat. It says introduce your cat to the big wide world. Is your home right for your cat? Have it checked out thoroughly.
I think you should actually get a cat. I think it'd be good for you.
You must be joking.
It would be good for you.
You must be joking.
Because they're quite self-sufficient.
Anyway, I've got a really, really interesting tale to tell you.
Have you?
About a woman who talks to cats and what happened to her.
Right, OK.
Back to becoming a pop star again, hasn't he?
He has, yeah.
He apparently needs some money for his free school and all that kind of his Islamic school or whatever it is. He runs a very successful school anyway. But
he loves his dog more than he loves his girlfriend.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, look, the stories surrounding cats now are they're just piling in all over the place. Cats are starting to rule the world. What about this one?
Well, they're not really starting to rule the world, are they?
A schoolgirl's fears after cat is put down by blundering vet.
Oh, yeah.
Heartbreaking moment. 10-year-old girl said a tearful farewell to a cat after it was wrongly put down when it was mistaken for a stray. That's a huge story in one of the papers at the weekend.
Oh, so what? Somebody took...
Who cares about one cat being put down?
It's an awful story.
And then listen to this one.
Hang on. And so what you're saying, tell me that story again. So somebody found a cat, thought it was a stray.
Yes.
Took it to a vet and it was put down.
Yes.
That's horrendous.
Well, it's a
absolutely
manky
awful.
cat, for goodness sake.
No, it's a cat that was loved by a child. I mean, you have no compassion for these kind of things?
Well, I do for a little child, if that's the case, yeah. But what about this one? Millionaire spends £10,000 on hunt for gun killer of daughter's kitten. So... a father spent £10,000 on private detectives after police failed to track down the thug who killed his daughter's kitten with an air rifle. Neil Tregarthen devoted 6 weeks to gathering information and then gave a 15-page report that named the prime suspect, but officers dismissed it as rumour and speculation and abandoned the case.
I know.
I mean, this is people getting obsessed with cats.
Well, mind you say with people getting obsessed with cats. Front page of the Daily Mirror, Crufts murder, 6 more dogs poisoned.
Oh, yeah. Just another one on cat. We'll come to that in a second.
Right.
There's a woman who's got a device in America which converts human speech into cat speech. So she talks to her cat through this device.
Right.
The cat attacked her. Cat attacks lady after being insulted by human-to-cat translator app. That's an app that you get on your phone.
So you talk into this thing, and then it comes out with cat noises.
Comes out with cat noises like meowing and all that kind of stuff, right? Having a conversation with your pet cat may sound very appealing, but after witnessing this cat's aggressive reaction, it may not be such a good thing after all. The cat actually attacked the woman because it didn't like the noises that were coming out of the machine. So it must have, in some way, the cat talk was, insulting or something like that.
Could be faulty. I mean, it could be that whoever has been responsible for translating the stuff into cat speak has got it wrong.
Furious cat stalks over to owner and takes a swipe after she uses cat-to-human translator app to talk what's now been called feline language.
Blimey.
So, I mean, the translator app talks to the cat in a series of meows. Okay?
Yeah.
Series of meows. Let me find this here.
Do you think you could learn to do that like you did the gibbon speak?
Well, I don't know. Intrigued, the cat approaches a woman and climbs her leg before pouncing at her with its paw and baring its teeth. And all this happened in Tennessee. So they're all a bit mad in Tennessee, aren't they? But anyway, there you go.
That's amazing. I mean, the trouble is, though, that the thing about talking to animals through a device like that, I mean, you don't really know what's being said. I mean, it's like going abroad, isn't it, and talking to one of those translator machines.
Exactly.
And then repeating it to somebody, and you have no idea, really, if they've got it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely right. Top 10 cat breeds, another feature I found here, the British short hair.
Yeah.
There's 5,237 of them.
To you.
The ragdoll. The Maine Coon, C-O-O-N.
Yeah, Maine Coon, that's the one that doesn't have a tail, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
The Siamese, the Burmese, the Persian, the Burman, the Oriental Shorthair, the Bengal, the exotic Shorthair.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And then a guide to...
Well, have you just discovered that there's a load of different kinds of cats?
Well, I mean, I just think that we've become obsessed with cats. And I
think you've become obsessed with cats.
By the way, my neighbour has a ginger tom cat prowling in its garden to use her garden as a bathroom, right?
Yeah.
Because cats apparently never use their own territory.
No. I have to tell you, actually, one of the most annoying things in the last house I lived in, there was a place, the people next door had a load of cats.
Right.
And they used to come and use our garden, and it was the most annoying thing. Anyway, because dogs aren't like that. Dogs will be much more easily trained in that way.
Yeah, no, she's furious because that's all the cat does is come in and use her...
It's awful. It's really horrible.
It's shocking. So,
and
anyway,
once it's been used as well, you can't stop them. Then more cats then come, and more of them use it.
Yeah, but you see, this is up Penthouse Street level, so the cat must belong to one of the flats near us, right?
Okay.
It must do. It must come over the roof or something. It's mad. But anyway, don't worry, because I've sorted it. I've given her the ammonia spray I use to rid the street of dogs who are fouling the pavement. Yeah. Well, use that ammonia spray on the cats and I've sprayed all my walls.
You don't spray the actual cats, do you?
Well, I've sprayed all my walls as well, because I'm next door to...
Yeah, but you're not going to spray
the
cat, though, is what I'm saying.
Well,
you don't want to do that.
Well, we'll have to see how it goes.
I mean, I thought you were a lover of all animals.
I am a lover of all animals. And
you want to spray them with ammonia?
It's funny you should say that, because I'm determined now to join a rescue mission for orangutans. I don't know what you're laughing at.
But why? Yeah, but you want to be cruel to dogs and cats.
No.
You want to wipe out squirrels.
No.
And now you want to save some other species of creature that doesn't even live here. I'm
telling you, I've got literature on this. I've been following it up for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah.
Orangutans are being wiped out in parts of the world where people are cutting down forest, right? Cutting down forest so they can plant palm trees for palm oil.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Because... Well, what do you mean what's wrong with that? You can't get rid of orangutans. Orangutans...
Well, you just said to me once, did you not, that you want to get rid of all the forests in this country and concrete everything over and make more roads?
This is not in our country. This is in somewhere like Indonesia.
No, right. Somewhere like Indonesia.
Yeah, somewhere like that, yeah. And hang on, I'll find out exactly where it is. Wait a minute. You see, an orangutan, believe it or not, has 97% of the same DNA that humans have.
Yes, I don't disregard that.
They are very, very close to human beings.
Yeah.
And they can almost talk and all that kind of stuff. They've certainly got all sort of human feelings, OK?
Yeah.
Now, orangutans face becoming the first species of great ape to become officially extinct. 6,000 only are still wild in Sumatra's swamps and rainforests.
That is sort of down in that neck of the woods.
Sumatra, yeah. The numbers are reducing rapidly because the habitat has been ravaged largely to make way for the mass plantation of palms. The plants produce palm oil, which is used increasingly in an ever-growing variety of Western consumer products, from chocolate bars and biscuits to soaps and cooking oil. We should all give it up.
Right.
We should give up chocolates, biscuits, soaps and cooking oil
to save the orangutan?
To save the orangutan. To save the orangutan. I'd rather save the orangutan than save some species of humans, which I've come across in my life.
Well, how many orangutans are left? Is there any danger?
6,000.
It's only 6,000?
Only 6,000.
That's not very many, is it?
Used to be 600,000, if you see what I mean.
Right.
So...
But this is all part of the inevitable march of progress that you're all saying is a good thing for humanity. You also said not that long ago, wouldn't it be no problem to anybody at all if, say, for example, we never saw another giraffe or another tiger or all these other exotic animals?
They're not semi-human. Orangutans are.
So there's a difference.
Yeah, of course there's a difference. You know, the orangutan needs to be protected. Now, there's an organisation called the Sumatran Orangutan Conservation Programme, SOCP. It's a charity based in Medan in northwest Sumatra. I'm joining it.
You're going to join it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
I want you to go over there then.
Sorry?
Maybe you should go over there and check it out.
I might go and have a look.
Offer them some moral support.
Yeah,
instead of just throwing money at them.
Yeah, I might. I might go. And the thing is that the poor orangutans are not just being sort of forced out of their habitat by the loss of trees. They're actively being hunted and shot because they're said to be a blinking nuisance. You know what I mean?
Exactly right.
It was terrible.
Now, Miles says this. What if your neighbouring policeman loves cats and gets upset due to Porky spraying cat hater spray near his apartment?
It's a different location.
Oh, is it?
This is.
Have you seen him, by the way, since?
No.
Since his first visit?
No. The cat is a Surrey-based problem.
Right.
The police neighbour is a South Coast problem.
Oh, South Coast.
It's not a problem. South Coast situation.
Well, it
South
depends,
Coast situation.
Have you seen him since the last time he introduced himself to you?
No, but I should imagine he's probably out on the beat somewhere. So I wouldn't worry, unless he's a specialised cop and does specialised things.
That's very possible, yeah.
Which, of course, could be.
I once lived next door to a guy who was supposed to be some kind of undercover cop, I think, because he was a police officer and very occasionally would turn up in a police officer's uniform, but most of the time didn't, and a lot of the time would disappear off in the middle of the night and come back at strange times of the day.
Do you remember that Johnny Depp film?
Which one?
He was an undercover cop.
Donnie Brasco. Yeah, fantastic film.
That was a great film.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
You know the best moments of it? I think we've talked about this before, haven't we? They're in the Japanese restaurant.
This is when Al Pacino... Oh, yeah.
They're in the Japanese restaurant, sitting cross-legged, and the Japanese guy who runs it says, could you take your shoes off, please, as a mark of respect for the Japanese culture. And everybody else has taken their shoes off, and Johnny Depp says, no, I'm not taking my shoes off.
He can't, because he's got his recording device in his boot, hasn't he?
He's got a recording device in his boot which monitors everything the crooks are saying.
Yeah.
So he literally can't take his shoes off. So then he invents his grandfather, who fought in the Second World War and was banged up.
Tortured, right?
In a Japanese prisoner of war camp and tortured. And scumbags like this shouldn't even be allowed into America. And eventually talked all the gangsters round to the fact that this guy... So they took the man who was the manager of the restaurant into a washroom and they smashed all his teeth out on the edge of a sink because he was Japanese.
Yeah.
And, that was a bit harsh for the guy who's running the restaurant.
It was.
1 minute he's running a decent restaurant, he's a hard worker and a good business. And next minute, people are literally knocking his teeth out on the edge of his sink because somebody's told a lie about him.
Fantastic
film.
Well,
no, somebody's not told a lie about him. Somebody's told a lie about themselves.
Yeah, fantastic film. You know what I watched last night because I got fed up looking through the TV and finding nothing to watch. I know we've got Porky Vision coming up this week, so we've got all sorts of good stuff to talk about. But I decided to watch the Shawshank Redemption again.
Oh, did you?
Which I hadn't seen for a few years, which is one of my favourite films of all time.
I read a profile on somebody over the weekend who said they've watched the Shawshank Redemption 60 times.
Really?
It is their favourite. I think it might have been Sean Phillips.
Sean Wright Phillips?
No. The woman, Sean. Isn't she about 72?
You mean Sean Phillips?
An actress, Sean Phillips. Sean Phillips.
Sean Phillips.
No, Sean Phillips. And
Sean
by the way,
Wright Phillips. That would be an interesting combination.
No, it wouldn't. And by the way,
she could do the weather.
The lady Sean Phillips, she's another one who's got an obsession by cats.
Really?
She says
what is going on with? Have you got some kind of search facility to find every story that's ever been written about cats?
But every time I open a publication or start reading something, it's all about blinking cats. I'm telling you, it's something which disturbs me greatly. And I wonder about the influence of cats on the economy, on people's mental health, their culture, and all that kind of stuff. It's just not on. It's just not on.
Now, coming up in the next hour, I want to get some stories from you about Cheltenham, because Cheltenham's coming up, of course, today.
Yeah.
Mr. Alan Brazil is down there. Hawksby and Jacobs are down there. All the papers are full of all sorts of guides to AP McCoy's final fling. So I'm going to be asking you a few questions about Cheltenham, and we can recount our day out there, which we had.
Yeah,
in November.
Indeed. And by the way, you talked about watching things last night, and it will form part of Porky Vision on Thursday. Yeah. But the most outstanding programme I've seen lately is Banished, which is the one I kept telling you about.
Oh, the Australian one.
It's about the Australian one, and they all go
yeah, well, let's get Sandra on this week to talk about that.
It's utterly fantastic.
Is it good?
Got to get Sandra on. It's brilliant, and it's heartbreaking and heart-wrenching, and as a human being, you feel almost right, embarrassed to be alive when you see some of the privations that those people went through at the hands of the British Empire. But unfortunately, we ran the world in those days, so we had to be quite harsh with people.
Now, you won't believe this, right? Yeah. But after your upsetting of the people of Sunderland on this show, and after your upsetting of the people of Cardiff at the live show last night, Christian has tweeted us from a place called, let's wait for this, Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Chattanooga Choo Choo. I've stayed at the Chattanooga Choo Choo Hilton.
Well, he says we're not all mad in Tennessee, Porky.
Oh, right, OK.
Because he's in Tennessee.
Oh, he's in of course he's in Tennessee.
So now you've insulted the entire state of America.
No, I haven't, no. And do you know what? When I stayed at the Chattanooga Choo Choo Hilton, I got out of the taxi, and as you walk towards the entrance to the hotel...
There's a guy come out and sing, "Pardon me, boy."
No, a lady. A lady comes out. Really? "Pardon me, boy. Is this the Chattanooga Choo Choo?"
Was it Sean Phillips?
Sorry?
Was it Sean Phillips?
No, it wasn't Sean Phillips. But I mean, I thought it was wonderful. I thought, wow, that's great, and all that kind of stuff. And then one of the reasons I was there was because I went on the Civil War battle trail.
Oh, why did you do that?
Well, because I'm interested in Civil War battles.
Since when?
I've always been interested in...
You've never been anywhere that you wanted to go just for the sake of recreation. You were always on a job somewhere.
Yeah, I was on a job down there or something, but I thought I'd go and have a look at the Civil War trail as well. Did you know the Gettysburg Address? Everybody thinks the Gettysburg Address is one of the most magnificent... Yeah, one of the most magnificent... Well...
I've lost it out of my address book.
No, it's so short you could actually remember it.
Yeah.
The Gettysburg Address is supposed to be one of the greatest,
pieces of oratory of all time,
it's pieces of oratory and leadership in all time.
Yeah.
It can turn into about 72 words, and that's it. And it's all about, for the people, of the people, with the people, and all that kind of stuff. By the people.
Can you imagine somebody sitting there? How many times can you get by the people, in the people, with the people?
Yeah, and that's all.
The people.
It looked to me like Abraham Lincoln had sort of not come with anything prepared and was suddenly asked to make a speech. So he mumbled these few words and suddenly became the greatest historical political speech in history.
This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out in a little while, of course. Mr. Parry, I just wanted to touch on Cheltenham, just to say, because we've got such a connection, I suppose, with Cheltenham. You've got much more of a connection, really, than I have. But we went down there back in November.
We did.
And did rather well, thanks to Ruby Walsh, who was there in the Paddy Power box, giving us a great many tips. But I'm not sure if we're going to make it down there this week. But Mr. Brazil's down there, Hawksby and Jacobs are down there. It's going to be great fun.
It would be great to try and get down. It's just such a hell of a long way to go, Cheltenham. For some unknown reason, I can't understand, excuse me, why the travel...
By the way, I've just made myself a Lemsip because I'm still suffering slightly from a cold. I don't know if you'd like one, would you?
No, I wouldn't.
You don't really like it, do you?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
I've got a little tickle.
No, that's not a problem. I'm not interested in your tickles. I can't believe the communications between here and Cheltenham are so bad. London's the main city. Cheltenham is the home of national racing. Yeah. And to get there, you have to go exactly as you described it earlier, on a sort of milk train type...
you change like at somewhere like Swindon, right?
Swindon. You go on this cattle train all rattling through the Cotswolds and eventually gets you there. And I
you know what they should do? What they should do, instead of building this high-speed rail link to Birmingham, build a Cheltenham.
I totally agree.
Wouldn't that be a better idea? I know people would say, oh, well, just for race goers. Well, actually, why not?
I'm talking about the Midlands, where Cheltenham is, of course.
Is it?
Yes, of course.
Would you consider that to be the Midlands?
Yeah, of course I would, yeah. It's only a few miles from Birmingham. And getting back to... it's Gloucestershire, really, I suppose.
Well, it's not really... I wouldn't say it's the Midlands
And getting back to Birmingham, how surprised were you to learn and witness me jumping over post boxes, eh? Because you didn't know I could do that.
I'll tell you what...
I dropped that on you by surprise.
The most amazing thing, and I'll tell you what, I haven't done it yet because I had a bit of a mad weekend after I left you in Birmingham, because it took me quite a long time to drive all the way back. Because we should say, one of the reasons you were on the train was you'd opted to take the train up for various reasons. Exactly. It's probably quite sensible. I opted to drive, and the drive back from Birmingham was glorious on Saturday because the sun opened the sunroof in the car for the first time. It was fantastic. Yes. But I then had to drop our executive producer and my daughter in London and then carry on down to Sussex. So I was on the road for about 5 or 6 hours. But it was a very enjoyable trip. However, what I did find astonishing was the video you're talking about, which we will upload onto Two Mics TV, of you jumping over the phone box, the pillar boxes, rather, was not so much the actual jumping, which I did have my doubts about, but just the expression on your face.
Yes.
You look like a cross between the Incredible Hulk and Kenny Rogers after...
Well, it takes quite an effort to vault over...
Too long in the old sun tanning area.
It takes quite an effort to vault over a post box from a standing start. But the reason I mentioned that is that Jay Dorian here sent in a tweet to the Two Mics. The pictures of Mike Parry jumping over letterbox at the live show was absolutely priceless. I was in tears when I saw that. tears of pain, I should think,
Tears of
thinking
pain,
what would
I
happen
would
if you didn't make it over that post box and you sort of wrapped your, your vital parts around the top of a post box. That could be quite painful, I agree.
Absolutely awful. I'm being told from behind the glass that we're going to try and upload that now, so it'll be there hopefully before we finish having this conversation. Now, how about this from Paul, the London cabbie, who's texted into 81089. He says, Porky, did the concierge of the Chattanooga Hilton sing "Pardon Me Boy, is that the cat who chewed your new shoes"?
Well, it could be something like that, because you can't really tell. But she was a very vivacious lady with a great voice, and they greet all their guests like that. And of course, that's the famous Glenn Miller song, isn't it? Pardon me, Al, is this the Chattanooga choo-choo?
Here's one from Keith in Blackpool, and actually I know this place as I've been there. Right. Google Monkey World in Wareham, Dorset. They rescue and breed orangutans as part of a worldwide programme. So you might not have to bother with Sumatra, you can just do this one. Yeah,
absolutely. Now listen, you telling me about my attitude towards women and all that, right? Have you ever encountered, what's her name?
Who?
That lady who used to be... sorry, my head's gone. The lady used to...
You have to give me a bit more of a clue.
Yeah. The lady used to be... hang on. She used to be the health minister, Salmonella. Edwina Curry.
Oh, Edwina Curry,
Edwina Curry,
I don't think I've ever met her, no, if that's your question.
No, do you not remember that we did a show once when I came in, the previous evening, I'd seen Edwina Curry on a train.
No, I don't remember that, no.
Yeah. What happened was I was coming back from Wembley, and it was an England game, right?
Yeah.
And I got on the train round to Victoria, and Edwina Curry was down this train, packed full of football fans. Not one single young male fan got up to offer her a seat.
Yes.
Despite the fact that she's a woman now, I think, in her 60s, you know what I mean?
Right.
And we spoke to her the next day on the show, actually, and she said, oh, well, she said, that's life, and I don't expect people to stand up for me and all that. Well, I think they should have done for two reasons. Firstly, she's a lady.
Yeah.
Secondly, she's a former cabinet minister, so she deserves our respect, right?
But, I mean, is that something you would do?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean, if you were on the tube...
Yeah, definitely.
But, I mean, for whom? Because it's quite a thorny issue, this, actually. Particularly for a lot of younger women. If you were to get up and offer a woman a seat on the tube,
yes.
She might not particularly appreciate it.
But anyway, the reason I'm talking about this is she's got quite a risque past, hasn't she, Ms. Curry?
Right. Well, she had that business with John Major,
when she was married to her first husband, I think, wasn't it? She had an affair with John Major.
Well, when he was Prime Minister.
Well, no, it wasn't. It was before he was Prime Minister.
No, it was while he was Prime Minister.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
No, I'm sure, Mike, it wasn't.
I'm pretty sure it was when he was Prime Minister.
No, I think you'll find... I'll
have to check that now.
Right, you check that, because I think you'll find it was before he was Prime Minister, and I think one of her beefs was that when he became Prime Minister, she suspected that the relationship they'd had in the past might have prevented her from getting a senior cabinet post, because it was under Mrs. Thatcher that she had to quit as the egg minister, right? But anyway, look, the reason I'm telling you this, I read an interview about her over the weekend.
Oh, there you go, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it was prior to his promotion to the cabinet, a 4-year extramarital affair.
That's right, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Now, listen to this. She's asked this question in one of these weekend interviews, right? Who would your dream dinner date be?
Right.
And she's now married again, of course, to a former policeman, and
is she?
Very happy marriage and all that kind of stuff. Her answer is this. Who would your dream dinner date be? Her answer is George Clooney, all by himself. I'm a huge fan. He's every middle-aged woman's dream. He's more than an actor. He's an activist, and he puts his money where his mouth is, and I like that. I'd be happy just to sit there gazing into his eyes, thinking, oh, beautiful, oh, beautiful. I was once asked where I'd like to die, and get this, and the answer is under George Clooney. Now, that is pretty risque, isn't it?
It is pretty risque, but you have to say, you take your hat off to the woman for having a sense of humour about stuff.
Yeah, but hang on, she's married to another man now, and she's saying publicly, I'd like to be sort of...
Well, I don't think it's any great secret that most women in the world fancy George Clooney.
Actively engaged with George Clooney
most women
in a sort of intimate nature.
Yeah, but most women in the world would say they fancy George Clooney. It wouldn't matter if their husband...
I'll tell you what,
if their husband was so insecure as to say, why would you say that to a newspaper, then he's obviously not the right guy.
If I was going out with a woman, and I lived with her, I was married to her, and she said publicly, and cuckolding me in writing in an interview...
You wouldn't like it?
I'd throw her out.
But that's because you're inherently...
I like George Clooney, and I want George Clooney to in some way have an intimacy with me. I'd throw her out the house.
But that's because you're inherently insecure.
No, I'm not. I'm not insecure at all.
You must be.
I'm not insecure at all. But I mean, I think that's. Do you know what? You remember our?
What if you said to her, I rather fancy Kelly Brook, as you do, right?
Yeah.
What would you do
Yeah,
then?
but I wouldn't say it publicly into a magazine so that the rest of the world, millions of people, could read that I actually don't care about my wife. I really fancy Kelly Brook.
Yeah.
You remember Tim Miles, our colleague from the Daily Mail?
do.
And the crime correspondent with Sky
Yes.
and many other things and all that. He once came back from a job, I don't know why it involved Edwina Curry, but this was in our heyday in Fleet Street, sort of, late 80s, early 90s. He said, I met Edwina Curry in the House of Commons today. I said, yeah. He said, she's the sexiest woman I've ever met.
Really?
I said, what do you mean? I said, she's middle-aged. He said, no, there's something about her.
Right.
He said, believe me, she is the sexiest woman I've ever met.
There must be.
And I thought, wow, what's he got into that for? But clearly, she has a way with men, because as you quite rightly say, her... the other thing was, do you remember... Steve, middle name Norris. The middle name begins with S-H.
Yes, I do
and
remember
ends
that.
in R because he had 6 girlfriends on the go at once, allegedly.
He
right?
once tried to be mayor of London. Didn't he?
Once tried to be mayor of London. And I remember reading, they both got to Parliament about the same time, and I think they'd both been at university together. I think it was at Oxford. And she actually said to him, I won't tell anybody if you won't.
Right.
No, we've never actually been told what that meant, but you can guess.
Yes, I think you probably can.
Yeah.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The pressure's on now.
Relieve the itch. Talk Sport.
He's on the edge of the D. He's found Monreal inside the area. He tucks it in at the near post and gives Arsenal the lead. Manchester United behind, and it's all of their undoing, their own undoing. Nacho Monreal, who's in the team in place of Kieran Gibbs, finished it off, but it was all about Özil and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, and it's Manchester United 0, Arsenal 1. Here comes Di Maria, right side for Manchester United, looking for Rooney! What a diving header that was! What a wonderful cross with the left foot, hurling it in Di Maria, in front of the 6-yard box, and diving full stretch to guide it beyond Wojciech Szczesny was Wayne Rooney to provide Manchester United with an instant response. It's Manchester United 1, Arsenal 1. Can he finish it here? He can. Danny Welbeck scores at Old Trafford for Arsenal, and he puts Arsenal into the lead. It's another Manchester United mistake, and he's beaten David De Gea and put it into the empty net. And Manchester United are the architects of their own downfall for the second time of the night, and the 9,000 Arsenal supporters go crazy. Danny Welbeck, forever a Manchester United supporter, has scored the goal that has put Arsenal one step closer to Wembley. He has sent him off for 2 yellow cards in quick succession.
Angel Di Maria.
He's gone.
You silly, silly man.
This is the moment that he got a yellow card, walked away. He grabbed the referee. That was the problem. He grabbed the referee in the back, pulled his shirt to get his attention, and then he got the second yellow card. 2 yellow cards. You're asking for trouble. And surely now, Arsenal, who have had the advantage in men and have the advantage on the scoreboard, are going to secure a position in the last 4 of the FA Cup with victory at Old Trafford for the first time in 7 visits. Well, we knew it couldn't last forever. United playing badly and winning games, not anymore. And Arsenal will go into the hat for the semi-finals after beating Manchester United by 2 goals to 1.
That was live TalkSport commentary last night, of course, of Manchester United being knocked out of the FA Cup by Arsenal, the holders, who are into the next round, into the semi-finals, and they're going to play the winners of Bradford City against Reading. A lot of tweets coming in on the quiz front, right?
Really?
Anthony says, how about a Civil War quiz?
Yeah.
Tall bloke Lewis says, quiz Porky on the TV from Porky Vision. He'll easily get 10 out of 10. Give Porky a quiz on cats, says Jozza.
Yeah, I don't know anything about cats.
He seems to talk as if he's an expert.
We've done the Civil War in America anyway.
I think we have,
We've done the Civil War,
I think we may well have done.
I was thinking about John Lennon, but that might be too close to the Beatles one that we've already done.
Well, I don't mind giving you a quiz on John Lennon.
OK, John Lennon.
Shall we do it on John Lennon?
John Lennon.
There'll be plenty of musical interludes for that one.
Yeah, OK, well, that's all right then.
Now, I was telling you about the drive back down from Birmingham.
Yeah.
Stopped off at a service station, I think somewhere near Rugby.
OK. What was it like?
Which was very nice, actually. I did one of those things, though, when, they separate out the main building away from the I had to get petrol. And went into the petrol station, paid for it, and then instead of seeing the door immediately to my right, I went all the way back out to the door that I'd come in at, and then the door wouldn't open. And I was left standing there looking like a bit of a lemon.
Well, I'm not surprised. It was probably the entrance, and you were trying to make
it was. But why would they do that? Why can't you just go in and out the same door?
Do you know what? I love service stations.
Do you?
I think they're romantic. I mean, I remember the first service station I ever went to when I was about like 5 or 6 or something, and we were driving up to Blackburn to see my old great auntie, who was so old.
From Chester?
We were driving from Chester to Blackburn, so we hit a bit of the M6, the newly opened M6, you know, from about Manchester to about Preston or somewhere like that, you know. But we stopped at a service station. I couldn't believe this place. And do you know what? When you went into the loo and had a leak, then you washed your hands. You stuck your hands into like a drum. Yeah. It was, you know, it was like it wasn't a hot air thing. You stuck your hands into this hole in the wall like a drum. Yeah. And all hot air dried your hands. It was amazing. Right. Never seen anything like it before in my life.
Yeah, those were the early versions.
The early versions of it.
Well, a bit like those ones they have on trains now, where you
that's
stick
right,
your hands
like
in, but it gives you water and soap and it dries them.
Yeah, but this just dried them. It's amazing. And then, you know, all these shops, all these magazines in and all this kind of stuff. It's fantastic.
The first one I remember was when we used to go up to Scotland on the M1 when they just sort of built the M1. Right. And Newport Pagnell, for some reason, was always the one that we would stop at.
Yeah. Well, what's the first one on the M1 when you come out of London? It's very famous.
It's the one just outside of Edgware, really,
but they've changed the name of it now.
South Mims, is that the one you're thinking of?
No.
There's one before that, isn't there?
Yeah, they've changed the name of it now, but it used to be very famous. And the reason I remember it is because an old colleague of ours who now works for the Daily Mirror but used to work for the Daily Star, so he used to use the same pub as us in Fleet Street because the Star and the Express were owned by the same people. Yeah. He used to virtually live there because that's as far as he ever used to get home in his car. He had a company car like the rest of us, you know. And he'd only ever get as far as this...
Is it London Gateway? I'm just being told from behind the glass. I'm pretty sure...
Well, it might be now, but it was...
that's what they changed it to.
Yeah, it used to be. It was a very famous name. It was one of the first ever made. But he used to pull into the car park and literally climb in the back seat and fall asleep.
Scratchwood, it used to be?
Scratchwood Services. I'm sure
so now it's been called... So now it's called London Gateway.
Yeah, that's right. But since then, they've got much better. Now, listen to this. Right, there was a time when drivers would steer clear of motorway service stations, reputation for lukewarm fry-ups, tepid tea, cafeteria queues. I've always liked the food in motorway service stations.
But you say that, but funnily enough, I mean, on the way up to Birmingham, we stopped at a place, and I thought it was sort of early sort of 8 o'clock and 7 o'clock in the morning or something. I thought I really fancied bacon roll. Yeah. All they had was a couple of fast food joints and one of these Costa coffee places. They didn't have that traditional kind of, I know what you mean, basic cafe type place where you just get a bacon roll. And in the end, I just left without getting anything.
Well, it says here, the quality of service and facilities at the 107 participating motorway service station in England has improved so much that a visit now adds to the overall enjoyment of your journey, says a new report, OK? Top rating to 7 sites, up from 1 a couple of years ago. 42 are now rated as 4-star, and the remaining 58 being awarded 3 stars, OK? Now, the one that they pick on here is one on the M40 at, where is it? Right, among the 5-star venues, hang on.
M6. Are you having trouble here?
Westmoreland.
I was going to say that is the best service station in the country.
Is that right?
It's in the Lake District, yeah. It's set amongst some very sort of green fields.
Right,
and sort of halfway up a hill, but the food is brilliant.
Right, now the other one, and I know about this one, is Beaconsfield on the M40, OK? Yeah. And it's run by a company called Extra, I don't know who they are, but it's promoted from 4 to 5 stars, praised for its range of restaurants, including Nando's, Patisserie Valerie, Chosen Noodles, Calvados. Now, I remember this one, Beaconsfield. Do you know why?
Why?
Because it's a really complicated service station to get in and out of. You sort of, because if you see what I mean...
Oh, you come off and it's not just straight
exactly,
there.
It's not on the edge of the road. You go up a slip road, then round a roundabout, then down another road and all this kind of stuff, you know. And I came out of there once completely confused. And
went back the wrong way.
No, I didn't go back the wrong way. For some unknown reason, I managed to find the emergency exit. Did you know that every service station has an emergency exit so that fire engines can get there
without having to go on the motorway.
Without having to go on the motorway, which might be clogged up with traffic, right?
Yeah.
So, and my mate told me about this years ago, and I thought, I don't know what you're talking about. But he escaped from one once when there was a big traffic jam through the emergency exit. And I said, where does it come out? And he said, to another main road somewhere else, but only the fire and emergency
So you managed
crews.
to find it?
Yeah, but I didn't want to go down it.
Yeah.
So I suddenly turned off and I thought, this is a strange looking sort of exit road because it's very sort of forestry and all that kind of stuff. And I kept going and going.
Right.
What's going on here? Where's the motorway?
Where's the motorway?
Yeah, where's the motorway? Anyway, I ended up 9 miles away from the motorway on some other road. I'm not joking. And then
once you lose it, you can't get back on, can you?
I then tried to turn around and go back, but it was a one-way.
Yeah.
And I ended
Nightmare.
up... this was Beaconsfield on the M40. I was supposed to be heading to Goodson Park, and I ended up near Bristol.
Really?
Because, it was a complete nightmare.
I used to get stuff like that when I was in America, and I'd go up and down I-95 very often from Connecticut to get my kids in Washington.
Right.
And there was I had to. In the end, I actually learned where all the places were to come off because they'll sometimes have not a service stop, but they'll have a big sign that says McDonald's here or
That's right.
Whatever Subway, and you'd come off, and actually it would be about 3 miles away.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, I know.
It was an absolute horror show.
I know it is, and that's the danger of it. But I've always liked the romance of service stations. The sort of the mystery of why people.
Have you
were
ever
in their
met
cars.
anybody there?
No, not really.
It's the kind of place people arrange to meet. I once hired a guy for the radio station I worked at up in Scotland.
Right.
He was in Glasgow, I was in Edinburgh. We met halfway on the M8.
Okay.
Because he said, I can't really come to Edinburgh. And I said, well, I can't really come to Glasgow.
Right.
We met there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of place where, we hear about footballers being signed in places like that as well, don't we?
Oh, yeah. Alan Ball was signed for Everton, and this was way back in 1966, at a service station on the top of the Pennines. I don't know which one it is.
Maybe it was the one that's now the Westmoreland one.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I don't know. And Harry Catterick just beat Don Revie, the Leeds United manager, to the drop by getting there first and getting his signature.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport.
And now it's time for the winners and losers. Before we start, I should inform you that if you go to Two Mics TV on YouTube, you will see the phenomenal, which is the only word to describe it, video of Mr. Parry leaping over a postbox.
Yeah.
You can give us your own verdict on...
Excuse me, what was that sniggering in the corner?
Mr. Gillies quite amused by that.
Like
Lewis Frog.
This is the Mr. Gillies who's asked me not to hurl as many insults at him in future as I have in the past, because of his credibility as a proper broadcaster,
it's nice
which I fully accept and respect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And then you're sniggering at my physical prowess.
Was this a leapfrog over a post
Yes,
box?
it was.
It is. Well,
Was it half height?
Have a look
No,
for yourself.
it's full height.
Have a look for yourself. You can find it on Two Mics TV on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I personally think it's a bit of a stunt.
It's not a stunt.
I don't think you've done it in one movement.
I'd like as many millions of our listeners to have a look at it, please, just to prove that it is an absolutely genuine act of physical supremacy.
Right. Well, the facial expression itself is worth looking at it anyway. But Toby, it is a double rollover, as I've been informed. Welcome back to Winners and Losers.
Thank you.
I'm going to let you go first with your three losers of the weekend.
Very simple this week. I'm going to continue different tactics until I find a way to win. So I'm keeping it simple, and I'm starting with Louis van Gaal.
Okay.
Bad enough that this is the worst Manchester United side in my lifetime. Bad enough that he's wrecked the confidence of a man who less than a year ago was man of the match in a Champions League final in Angel Di Maria. Bad enough that he's totally arrogant and that the arrogance is completely misplaced. The absolute worst is that last night he proved he is also a woeful loser. This is the quote: "We didn't lose to our opponents, we lost to ourselves." That was his answer about how Manchester United lost to Arsenal. It's time, Louis, to absquatulate from English football and take your terrible attitude with you.
Absquatulate?
Yes. Do you not know what that means?
I've never heard that word.
It means to leave quickly.
Does it?
Yes.
Well, I've learned
You
something.
know that, you oaf.
I've never heard of that word. I might make him the winner of this weekend just for coming up with a word that I've never heard of.
Oh, yeah?
I'm quite proud.
Doesn't happen very often.
No, that's true. I don't have that wide of vocabulary, unfortunately.
Okay,
my
question
second
number two.
loser of the week, and I'm ashamed to say this, it's Fernando Forestieri.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen the footage of this over the course of the weekend. I am ashamed to say that my club, Watford, has a diver on its roster.
Dear
and this
me.
isn't just any diver.
Well, there's two at Man United, don't worry.
Watford were playing at Wolves at the weekend, and in the 91st-ish minute, Bakary Sakho was fouled by Forestieri. It was a pretty nasty challenge, it has to be said initially. Sakho then gets himself up, and basically sort of approaches Forestieri, who throws himself to the floor like a bomber had
so
blasted
this wasn't even
him to
during
smithereens.
a normal course of play then?
No. He was protesting against this foul that Forestieri had caused. He clutched his face and rolled around.
Yeah.
The referee turned round to see this, promptly sent off Bakary Sakho of Wolves, and he conned the ref. One of the worst examples of a conning of a ref I've ever seen, it has to be said. It's not good enough.
Will it be
I'm
reviewed,
ashamed to be a Watford fan. Wolves have appealed against that red card, and I suspect they're going to win it.
Well, that's very decent of you to say something like that.
I'm disappointed in
most
Fernando
fans
Forestieri.
wouldn't admit that their own players do that kind of thing. And
He's
if they
a
did,
big
they wouldn't
loser.
care.
A big loser. You couldn't not admit
Okay.
it. It has to be said.
All right, number
My
3.
final one is Dom Inglot. Now, Dom Inglot obviously played doubles for Great Britain in their Davis Cup tie against the United States.
Yeah.
Gallant in defeat to the best doubles pairing there's ever been. But post-match, it became quite clear that he's been enjoying the company of some of the Scottish ladies, or one in particular. Outed about this by Andy Murray in a post-match interview when asked how the team are likely to celebrate their victory. Only for Inglot, when asked by the interviewer to share the name of this lady he's been spending time with, Inglot sheepishly admitted that he'd been dropped in it rather by Andy Murray, because actually he also has a girlfriend back home in England.
Oops.
And I suspect possibly he doesn't have a girlfriend back home in England anymore.
This makes sound
caused
a bit
much
painful.
hilarity, but it definitely makes him a loser of the weekend.
Okay. Well, those are all rather good, Mr. Parry, I'd have to say.
Yeah.
What have you got to come up against those with?
Right, well, I'll keep it fairly straight this week as well, because I do not want to cast any aspersions on Toby's professional standing.
No, quite.
In the past I've called him Toby, Mr. Nobody, but I withdraw that now.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely, okay. Now, my losers are, first of all, Cheltenham race fans tomorrow, who apparently, by the million, or not perhaps the million, that's an exaggeration, but the tens of thousands, have put an accumulator on Ruby Walsh to win all 4 big races tomorrow.
Really?
No, that's not going to happen. It is not going to happen.
No,
so
won't.
I'm afraid that, gambling is a mug's game anyway. We all know that, except when you do it responsibly, obviously, which we all do. But it can be when you get into this sort of...
but if it's an accumulator bet, you're not
mind.
putting much on, I suppose.
Well, the point is, it's just not going to happen. Ruby Walsh is not going to win 4 races at Cheltenham. Cheltenham is the sort of place, I know nothing about racing, but I picked all this up over the years, going with people like Mr. Brazil and all that, where it's very, very difficult to win 1 race, let alone 4 on the same day.
We did. We got 2 or 3, didn't we?
We did, but it wasn't the same jockey, was it?
That's
what
true,
I mean?
no.
On those horses. And it's such a test of skill and nerve and all that kind of stuff. 1 race takes it all out of you. But anyway, so it's Cheltenham race goes, okay? Second one, and it's so obvious that, I feel embarrassed to mention it, but it's English cricket,
Well,
obviously.
I'm glad you said that, because somebody needs to say it.
Yeah, it is just now most appalling state that it's ever been in. I mean, ever, so that's a result. And the third one, and I don't like to be unkind here because people do it with a good heart and all that, but it's the BBC viewers who've got to tolerate a night of red nose on Friday night. It drives me absolutely mad. Of course, the cause is good, to raise money for children and all that kind of stuff, but the sanctimonious attitude of some of the people who take part in it does drive me bonkers.
Yeah. I like all of those
They've
as
got
well.
dozens of other channels to watch, though, don't they, really?
Yes, I know.
But it does rather take over.
You're made to feel that if you don't watch it, then you are somehow a bad person for not getting
some
involved.
kind of pariah. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I'm going to say those are all great losers, so I'm going to give you a point each for that.
Good.
Mr. Parry, I'm going to ask you for your winners up first. First 3.
Pretty straightforward as well. Rangers fans, because Dave King has succeeded in the takeover, and I'm not on his side against others, against Mike Ashley, but they need stability at Rangers. You've got to have somebody who's determined to take the club forward from a perspective. The second winner, and this is so obvious to me, getting back to the cricket again, is Kevin Peterson.
Yeah.
Because, of course, the worse England become, the more his case becomes. His case gets stronger and stronger for re-inclusion in cricket. And the third one, and again, this is very obvious, but it's got to be said, is Danny Welbeck. Sold by Louis van Gaal to Arsenal.
Yeah.
He comes back to Manchester United and chucks him out the FA Cup.
Yeah. Fantastic story. I like all of those. Those are all very strong winners, Toby. I have to say, this is your big chance. Can you get a double rollover point?
I hope so. Well, I'm going to start with Wolves supporters.
OK.
Now, I'm sure you've all heard about the horrible attack on a Watford fan after the game at Wolves at the weekend. We hope that Nick Crewis is OK. But one supporter felt so ashamed about it. He said he was so keen to show the world that they're not really a bunch of horrible people that he set up a fundraiser. He wanted to raise £1,000 for this supporter in order, so he says, to help him support his side for a little bit longer once he's back on his feet. It's now raised £17,400 and counting, and I think that's a fantastic gesture by Wolves fans.
OK.
My second one is Team GB's Davis Cup team.
Yeah.
Not much more needs to be said other than the fact that over the weekend they beat the USA pretty comfortably, it's, all things counted, and basically they've proven that they've got a chance of winning the Davis Cup for the first time since 1936. That's how strong this team is, and with the right draw, they've got a great opportunity.
Well, I think if they win it, they could be winners. They can't be winners yet.
Well, they've won a very difficult tie.
True.
My final one, Mark Bentley, proved himself to be the ultimate winner this weekend. He's the manager of Grays Athletic in the Ryman League. He brought himself on shortly after half-time with his team 2-0 down to Hampton and Richmond. He took his place in central midfield and scored a goal to make it 2-1. He then saw his goalkeeper give away a penalty and be sent off, so he took the gloves, saved a penalty. Immediately after that, he managed to keep a clean sheet for the rest of the match. His side scored twice more late on, won the match 3-2, and it was all thanks to the heroics of Mark Bentley.
I like that story. These have all been very, very high quality this week, I have to say. But I've been getting it in the ear from the producer for taking too long over it. And so what I'm going to decide to do is I'm going to give you both a point for the winners.
Another cop-out.
And both a point for the losers.
Cop-out.
But I'm going to remove half a point from Toby for time wasting because it's taken too long for him to get through his winners. So the resulting score is actually 2 to Mr. Parry, 1.5 to Toby.
Fix.
And so that's 2 more victories, a double rollover.
Surely I should have been given some sort of warning in advance.
Well, I did say you have to hurry it up.
Yeah. Didn't hurry it up, mate. Sorry,
So, I mean, I'm afraid you just took too long. So,
can't be slow. Have a look at my video jumping over a post box. You'll see what speed is.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah.
And you'll also see what a man looks like when he's taken too much medication and been fallen asleep on the sun lounger.
Medication in the loosest
Toby,
sense
we'll
of the
see
word.
you next week. Thank you, Harry. We are the Two Mics. You can follow us at the Two Mics, and we will be telling you later on in about 5 hours from now, probably, when the new podcast is coming out on iTunes. Do you recognise that tune, I imagine?
Yeah, that's Tears for Fears, isn't it?
It is Tears for Fears.
No,
I once interviewed them in Peter Gabriel's studio in Bath when they were known as a band called Graduate.
Oh, yeah.
And they used to busk on the streets of Bath.
And you were still a student?
I was. Well, I was kind of, what would you call it? I was in transition from being a student into becoming a journalist.
Oh, but you've never become a journalist. That transition
Well, I'm still
failed.
in transition, yeah. It's going
Exactly,
quite well.
Exactly. But the reason we're playing that is because now I come across this latest survey, excuse me, best places to live in the UK, Bath in Somerset. Best place for families, OK?
It's a gorgeous city.
Yeah,
absolutely beautiful. I take it you've been there.
Yeah, well, I have, but only in passing. But they show you this scene here. Look, let me show you this. What exactly is that alongside the river in Bath?
That's the one of the few covered bridges in Europe. That's the Pulteney Bridge, and that's the River Avon there. And there's a weir, and you used to see people doing canoeing up and down it.
Really?
And it's absolutely amazing, beautiful place.
Yeah.
You know where one of the other most famous covered bridges is, don't you?
Where?
In Florence.
Florence.
The Ponte Vecchio.
Ponte Vecchio in Florence.
It's like basically a bridge with shops on it. So it's not just an ordinary bridge.
Yeah, they want to build a bridge in London like that.
Yeah.
Boris Johnson keeps going on about, because you used to have those in the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
The bridges across the river in the Middle Ages were, in fact, main thoroughfares.
Yeah, they were,
with,
Do you know what's in the water there?
Fish.
My ex-wife's engagement ring.
No.
She threw it in there.
What, after you split up?
Yeah.
She went back to Bath?
She went all the way back to Bath, where we met at university, and she threw her engagement ring into the weir.
So in the river?
Underneath the Pulteney Bridge.
Oh, she must have really disliked you quite a lot at the time. But anyway, look, the point of the story, it's a good story, that. The point of the story is it's Bath, then it's Bakewell in Derbyshire.
Right. I don't know
Yeah,
Bakewell.
I know Bakewell.
Is that near Buxton, around that kind of area?
Yeah, it is, round there.
Peak
Yeah,
District.
Peak District.
It's lovely there.
Yeah.
I do like it there.
And then Leamington Spa in Warwickshire, Leigh-on-Sea are the best 5 towns to live in for families. The problem is, every one of them's boring.
Yeah.
Nice places.
Well, I wouldn't say it's boring.
Nice places to live are boring places to live. They are, I'm afraid. You know, they go best villages in the country, right?
Yeah.
St Hilary, Vale of Glamorgan, Brockenhurst, Hampshire, Stoke-by-Nayland in Suffolk, which I know extremely well.
I don't know that.
Because it's very near where Mr Brazil lives, in Suffolk, and Denham Vale and Constable Country.
Yeah, you see, I don't know that area very well. You should take me up there for a tour.
Yeah, maybe, or whatever. And
that doesn't sound very encouraging.
Well, you know, we'll get round to it. And then, but these places are all terribly boring. You see, I couldn't stand to live in a place where if I walked down the street from one end to the other, 120 yards, and 3 people said hello to me, I'd move out.
Yeah.
If I went into the local pub...
But that doesn't make them boring, though.
It does.
It just means that people are quite nice.
No, if I went to a local pub and before I got to the barman was actually pouring a pint of my favourite beer...
Your usual Mr Parry.
I would never use that pub again.
Really?
You know, the familiarity...
You like anonymity?
I like anonymity.
But people must know you in the pubs that you go to down in various parts of Portsmouth. And I mean, when you go down to the south coast, you take the ferry across into Portsmouth, from Gosport, and you probably go to maybe the same 3 or 4 pubs, no?
Maybe, but I go early and I get to the back of the room and, I'm very discreet about it. Yeah, sort of hide and all that kind of stuff. And
why?
Well, because I don't want to engage in conversation with anybody.
Is it part of the camaraderie of going to a pub? Say if you happen to be on your own, you meet other people and you have a chat.
No, not for me. No, I find most people...
You're a very antisocial person, aren't you?
I am a bit. I find most people, other than me, boring.
Only you could say that with absolute sincerity.
No, but I don't wish to mingle in what's the word I'm looking for? Vocal intercourse, I suppose. Because
I can tell you, Bath is much more than a town. I mean, it's a city, right? And it's a beautiful city.
Why don't you go and live there then?
Well, because it doesn't really suit my
Yes, it does. It's only as far out of town from here as the other place you're living in now, the shed down in Suffolk.
Well, yeah, I suppose
Sussex.
But, I mean, the idea of living in Sussex was to live kind of more in the country than to live in a city. I mean, if I want to live in a city, I mean, to some extent, I agree with you. I mean, I don't particularly like people to be familiar with my movements or anything like that.
Exactly.
But if you do live in a village, it tends to be a bit like that. But Bath is not a village. I mean, Bath is a big city.
It's a big city, I agree.
And it's got loads going on, and it's very, very far from boring.
But generally speaking, when they say, Bath's the nicest place, people don't live in Bath. They live in a village nearby.
Yes.
And they commute into Bath. Do you see what I mean? You know, go to the spa and all that kind of stuff.
Just the architecture alone is staggeringly gorgeous.
Yeah, but I know, you say you threw your wife through her engagement ring into the Avon, your ex-wife, that's right, yeah. Now,
I think she thought it was some kind of, very, very positive statement or something.
Yeah, well, maybe it made her feel better, you know, and she sort of closed the book on
I wish she'd just given it back
marriage.
to me. I could have sold it.
Yeah, you could have flogged it. Yeah, that's true. Because a couple of weeks ago we were talking about, the despicable sort of tactics you employed during your marriage, and we compared them to Tom Jones, didn't we? A new book out about Tom Jones and the amount of affairs he had.
After your amusing train story, I'm not sure that you're the one with the morals of an
Well, I've got morals. But anyway, look at this new report that's coming out of America. Husbands head for the divorce court when their wives fall sick. Now, that strikes me as something you would do. Strikes me as something you would do. Promising at the altar to have and to hold your loved one in sickness and in health may seem like a straightforward pledge, but for men, some elements of the vow prove easier to keep than others. A study shows that a couple more likely to divorce if the wife falls ill.
What, you mean like with a very serious illness?
No. The researchers said that the results indicate that some men simply cannot cope with a poorly spouse.
Yeah.
So I suppose this is kind of long-term illness or something like that.
That's dreadful,
And
isn't
after tracking 2,700 couples in the US, this is the United States, from 92 to 2010, the American team found that divorce levels are roughly the same between healthy couples and those in which the husband suffered sickness. But when the disease hits the wife, the likelihood of divorce rose dramatically.
That's awful, isn't it?
So if you were ill, your ex-wife probably would have stood by you. The minute she got ill, you would have pushed off, even quicker than you did.
Once again,
you'd have been unfaithful on an even more regular basis.
You're surmising
something.
something.
I don't know how you can live with yourself when you think of your marriage.
Nothing. You don't, do you?
No, I don't.
One day I'll explain it to you. One day I'll explain it to you.
No, you don't have to explain it to me.
Now, here's
morals of an alley cat. I keep telling you that.
Absolute rubbish. I think it's been proved without a shadow of a doubt over the past few weeks when more and more of your stories have come out about your past and about the kind of things that you got up to.
I don't think
People have realised exactly where the bread is buttered. Now, how about this from Sean, who's obviously very astute.
Okay.
He says this, having watched that video of you jumping over a postbox, definitely a bit of dodgy editing with the postbox. And then he says, what's Porky doing in Bournemouth?
What's he doing in
Bournemouth? So he spotted that was made in Bournemouth. Was it made in Bournemouth?
It was, actually.
Was it?
Yeah.
No, he must know Bournemouth very well then.
Well, he must, because it wasn't a main street in Bournemouth.
I wonder if he's a postie.
It could be a poster, you never know. I've got quite a few here from people complimenting me on it. What?
Of course you have.
I mean...
Most people are saying they think it's a stitch-up, that it's no way is that actually filmed properly.
No, it says here, old Porky is now the new Postman Pat, so that's a recognition of the fact that that was great, OK.
Here's one that says it's a stunt, that's from Ian. Mike says it looks like a bit of camera trickery to me, but the face is classic.
No, I don't think so.
Amazing.
I don't think so. There's one here which says, how many packs of cigarettes did the fag-smoking baboon Mike Parry get through on Friday evening? Says Freddie in Swansea.
I don't think you had any, did you?
None.
No.
None whatsoever. Didn't have a cigarette because I don't smoke.
Well, I've got pictures of you smoking, but...
yeah, but that was a made-up picture. Right, here we go. Good idea, Porky, to save the orangutans, and then attached a pic. Who's this come from? This comes from, let me see, I'm not sure who it comes from. Oh, yeah, it comes from a guy called Ian. Thank you, Ian. But, you know, it's superposing my head on a picture of the orangutan swinging through the trees in Sumatra is not necessarily a great compliment. Thank you. And another one from Wannabe Rockstar. He says... Mike Parry is genetically closer to an orangutan than any other human. 99.9% identical in both looks and DNA.
How about this from Alex? Letterbox hurdling is true gold, says Alex, all from a man with only 1/3 of a working ticker.
Have I never told people? Only 1/3 of my heart works.
You have mentioned it. Now, before we go, because we haven't got a lot of time here, you mentioned Kevin Peterson there in one of your winners.
I certainly did.
Do you remember when Piers Morgan was on, and
Yes.
I said, this is never going to happen, is it? Kevin Peterson's
Yes.
actually going to find his way back in the England setup. He said, if they get knocked out of the World Cup early, which they have, and if these guys all get trounced out, which people are calling for them to happen, it'd be extraordinary if he got back in, wouldn't it? Would it?
I don't think it'll happen myself because I don't think that cricket establishment can take a volte-face.
Yeah, but what if they all get kicked out though?
Well, you know, I mean, I think the incoming guy has dropped some hint that he might reconsider the Peterson situation anyway. But I just couldn't. I mean, the cricket establishment will be the laughingstock of the world if they now take Peterson back.
I know,
because not only did the former selector, the former captain, the former everybody else say no way back for Peterson, they've actually gone on television in the case of the former England captain and called him the worst possible name you can call somebody, and the influence he has in the dressing room was being of, you know, a vile nature. So I don't know how they could have him back.
Interesting stuff.
I suppose we better give a quote from Liz, who's always very active during our shows here.
Yes.
How long before you start going to AA totally anonymously, but not for you? 25 minutes it took to talk about booze tonight. That is a record, she says. Accusing me of having some sort of fixation with drink.
Yeah, well, there are people who would say that. I think you've got a fixation with cats, though. But coming up tomorrow on the show, we're going to talk about the British Eurovision entry, which apparently has been picked.
We certainly are.
And it's also Ask Porky night as well. So if you've got any questions, the dilemmas that you wish him to answer, whether it's about your personal life, your business life, anything at all, you tweet them at the 2 Mics, of course, and we will read them out.
Don't forget to come back tomorrow for another sparkling, as fizzy as a bottle of champagne, podcast from the 2 Mics. The ragdoll, the Maine Coons, the Siamese, the Burmese, the Persian, the Burman, the Oriental Shorthair, the Bengal, the exotic Shorthair. Yeah. Unbelievable. And then a guide to...
Well, you just discovered that there's a load of different kinds of cats.
Cats do not want to be friends with humans. Cats want to dominate humans. Well, cats don't run marathons, you fool.